People who work in a custom printing service such as a t-shirt or a company like Shutterfly, what are the most bizarre prints you've seen? I work at a print company that specializes in large format printing. We had a gentleman send over a file for printing and request that we don't let the ladies see it. So naturally, we looked. It was a photo of said gentleman, his plump and hairy body covered in blue paint, wearing nothing but Santa trousers and the matching hat, which he wanted a life-size copy of. Even more disturbing was how often my boss would open the file and spend lots of time just analyzing it, even after it was printed and given to the customer. Not a printer, but in politics we tend to work with a lot of them. Weirdest piece I've ever seen was a guy who put his face on the side of a van and drove it around. Not his name or party, just his face. He won the election. Even more impressive if the ballot had names instead of pictures. I worked in a copy shop in the early 2000s. An old man used to come in and ask us to enlarge the heads of children he had meticulously cut out of magazines. He wanted them life-size. Then he would stand and inspect each one to make sure they were perfect. It was unsettling. I was reprimanded for saying he was a diddler freak and I didn't want to help him again. Everyone agreed with me, but the crazy bitchy owners let him keep coming around. I work at a chocolate shop. I spent an afternoon tying ribbons on Fanny and Dong chocolate pops for a local university. Not a print shop, but cake decorating request. I used to work at a cookie shop in a mall that did custom cookie cakes. One night, when I was alone in the shop, someone calls and wants a cake made by the end of the night. It was a slow night, and I had 3 hours till close, so I agreed. She then said she wanted a fly on the cake. I was a bit taken aback, but to each their own, so I asked if she wanted like little cartoon flies buzzing around. Nope, she wanted a big, anatomically correct fly taking up most of the cake. I thought it odd, but a good test of my artistic frosting skills. So I spent about an hour and a half staring at a nasty close-up reference photo of a fly, mixing colors and perfecting lines until I was satisfied. After taking a look at the finished product, my main thought was that looks disgusting. Who would ever want to eat that? I worried I had made it too realistic and gross, but the lady who picked it up was thrilled. Entomologists are weird people. My husband used to work for a screen printing shop and he told me a story about a man coming in and getting his wife's chihuahua on 45 shirts that just said "Go Tracy" and his wife's name was Reema. So I'm not sure if they were cheering on the dog, but it was one of the stranger orders. If it were me I would have asked 1,000 questions, but no such luck. Probably entering the dog in a contest and selling the shirts to supporters. Used to work at a company that did large format fabric printing, dye sublimation, for Shutterfly and Society 6 and all of those companies. I think Cafe Press always had the worst ones, but you'd get people ordering a 90x90 inch nice, soft blanket with their 50-year-old, assumed, wife, nude, legs spread, printed on it. Not a great sight, lol. Used to manage a photo lab in the early zeros right at the beginning of the digital ascension. We primarily processed high-end film and prints. I've seen some crazy crap because my mom was a crime scene technician, so I didn't have any qualms about whatever anyone would bring us. Naked, parties, death, I didn't really care. Now morgues usually have their own labs for obvious reasons, but the one at the hospital across the street would break down occasionally and they'd bring their film to us. So one day I'm doing like 6 rolls for the coroner at that morgue. Suicide with a shotgun to the chin. Close-ups of this guy with nothing but gore above the nose. Well, if you know film you know about double exposures. The guy's wife had gotten a hold of one of the rolls thinking it was blank and used it at Disneyland with their daughter. So 14 or 16 years old beautiful kid in front of the tree of life, and superimposed in the background is this dude's completely blown off head. I felt bad just because there's not much I could do and I had to explain what happened, and chances are he would never be able to reshoot either situation and maybe got into trouble at work. That's the weirdest, although I have more if anyone wants here. TLDR. Suicide shot superimposed over guy's daughter at Disneyland makes for some interesting art. I worked at a photo lab in the 90s, before digital was big. Had plenty of nudes, but I also has a plastic surgeon as a client. Tons of boob jobs of course, but his rotations on the emergency stuff was horrifying. People missing faces from accidents to cuts that went unattended for months. I will never get those images out of my head. Had a customer come in with a fleece blanket to be embroidered. She wanted to prank her daughter, who had just learned about fricking and made the connection her parents had fricked multiple times. So she had us embroider this fleece blanket as mom and dad's SATX blanket so they could casually toss it on the couch and torture her daughter. I used a super fancy script and made it look very classy. LOL. My local supermarket sold homo milk. Somebody idea of a joke, I'm sure. A story from one of my friends who worked in the photo department of a CVS. It's the late 1990s. A dad type comes to drop off a disposable camera to be developed. The roll started off with pictures of a small child's birthday party, then about 10 raunchy adult scenes including a top-down view of a blowjob with the probable wife, then another few pictures of the child's birthday party, meaning the raunchy freaking happened during said birthday party. I used to work at an online printing service similar to Vistaprint. There were a few bizarre orders that came through, but the most entertainment I got out of that job was seeing the massive amount of hip-hop album artwork. I could confidently say that at least half of our orders were album prints for CD jewel cases. Imagine the tackiest photoshopped covers of rappers trying to act hard cropped from low-resolution pictures taken from a crappy phone, stock images of guns, fire, etc. We had specifications for uploading your artwork for print, and the vast majority of these had terrible resolution, no bleed space, no safety space, centers an RGB image, etc. I got to have many conversations through email phone explaining these specifications. I got it down to an art after a couple months of working there. I work for a small student IT org, and we print a lot of posters for our events. We get a discount at the local print shop because the owner appreciates that we actually send in SVGs to their specifications. I'm currently working next to a custom t-shirt shop and the amount of teddy bears wearing Jordans, Supreme shirts, and dabbing that are probably coming out of that place is starting to annoy me. Literally seen a kid at my school wearing one of those yesterday. My jaw just dropped. The crap you see submitted for Valentine's Day peak. There's not enough eye bleach in the world, but then occasionally you do see tasteful artistic nude professional photoshoot that both guys and gals agree he/she is hot and the world is redeemed. Last job was in a printing shop. Creepy dude came in and ordered fold-over business cards for what I still think was our adult tour in Thailand. We outsourced almost all of our business cards because it's cheaper. I wonder if the printer we used was as skeeved out as we were. We also did t-shirts. This was before my time, but a club at the local Christian university built a toilet seat into their shirts artwork. It wasn't noticed at first, but the kids got in trouble when it was found out. I worked a temp job at a cardboard box factory. It's a really normal thing, but something I never really gave much thought to until presented with it. I spent an afternoon folding and gluing boxes that would be used for cremating human remains. They had a brand name, logo, and slogan on them that I don't remember, other than them being very pleasant in a way that was off-putting. Used to work at a retail copy center. Old man would come in every morning to print his religious posters and brochures. There were multiple crazy ideas within these, but here are a few. Leonardo DiCaprio deserves to be the next pope. He takes 4-hour walks every day to train for a 10,000-kilometer walk he plans on doing in a foreign country. Forget what one it was. Is turning his home into a religious yoga retreat for children despite his wife's wishes. Is turning his home into a religious yoga retreat for children. Nope, 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 nope. Worked at a label printer. A local dairy had their labels printed with us, including labels on the gallon caps. The lack of space on the caps meant they had to abbreviate. I still have a half a roll of homo stickers I like to prank my friends with. That's what it's called in Ontario. I worked for one of these. It's just a series of awkward photos of average to below average looking people, cropped poorly, in poses that are stupid. You get used to it pretty quickly. No one wanted to get fired, so we just pointed and laughed with the nearest cubicle mate and moved on. Not a specific print, but I can tell you 95% of fraudulent and or never paid for orders consist of some combination of the following things: guns, naked lady silhouettes, pit bulls, dollar signs, stacks of cash, angel wings, city skylines, an intentionally misspelled simple word. If I see two of those things, then next I'll probably find the customer's occupation listed as work or owner. The billing and shipping addresses will not only be in completely different states, but the names will also be different and they will have very different ethnic origins. For bonus points, the order will be with the fastest possible shipping time and the phone number won't be valid. Bonus points for the placement of the aforementioned images being completed random with no obvious thought given to size or color or balance. I have to give them credit for persistence though. They'll try 3-4 times placing new orders that never get filled before they give up. I work at a hosting company, and similar things that are obviously fraud come through. It's like they don't even try anymore. Well, my temple decided to have shirts made for a coffee house type fundraiser that had a picture of a piece of candy and read "Come get some dewy goodness," and I'd say those were pretty weird. I'm a digital artist at a custom t-shirt company. My first week on the job a few years back, one of the orders I had to artwork included an image of a large naked man, full frontal. He wanted it printed in pink. It came back for correction once he saw the proofs because he was upset that the pink made it hard to see his junk. We get a ton of weird stuff, like pee drawings, lots of nudity, a picture of actual diarrhea in the toilet, picture of a guy with a freshly cut off appendage, etc. I just did one the other day with like 10 guys standing naked in a river. The most disturbing ones are always photos. Some have some weird text or art, but the photos are definitely the worst. We always ask ourselves who the heck would wear these out in public. Makes for an interesting work day for sure. In my edgier years, I once printed a mousepad which was an ISIS flag with memes layered over it. How that managed to ship all the way from China without men in suits knocking on my door, I don't know. Maybe the memes saved your butt. A friend of a former colleague of mine had crappy balls printed on a stag do t-shirt. Apparently he wipes back to front. Not a printer, but on a recent Goodwill trip, I found a bright red t-shirt in men's XXL that simply read ketchup. It was clearly custom and my best guess was that it was for a school play, but the size made that a little unlikely. Would have bought it in a second, but it was way too big for anyone in my house. I've always wondered if they ordered a single shirt or if it was a bulk order. Of all the bizarre shirts I've come across, this was the strangest because you can usually figure out some sort of context for them. This was just a complete mystery. Could have been for a school play, but the shirt would be worn over some sort of bottle costume. Who knows? 2 years ago I did an internship at a company what specialized in printing and applying, if necessary, stickers. I saw graphic hentai stickers quite often, and one time I came across a design of a picture of a woman with larger than life corn cobs. Also a lot of Comic Sans was requested. I hope that didn't awaken something inside you. Worked at a small, local version of Shutterfly. The weirdest thing that still sticks with me is a small 20-page book, the minimum, with a nice full photo hardcover filled with pictures of his guys hunting triumphs. Him holding up dead deer heads with similar really gory pictures and other pictures of him and his friends' family all in camo and holding guns. And on the last page was a picture of a ring and a marriage proposal. It just felt so weird and out of place. To be honest, as a self-described redneck, I see nothing wrong with this. I did print for a few years while also working on my graphic design skills, which I now do full-time as an in-house designer. We're a small company and part of what we do is UV printing. The craziest thing I had to do was make a design of a guy's tattoo of a mermaid, based off a selfie sent us. The mermaid was sitting on an anchor. The tattoo was poorly done and the anchor made it look like she was giving fellatio, SP. Anyway, the worst part for me was having to work from the pic this guy sent, which was of his back. Homie had bad skin and back pimples which I had to stare at for hours while doing his tattoo for digital and print. Finally, a question I can answer here. Nothing too weird, but we had a client that wanted one of those word collages in a shape of a dong, made out of different words for dong. Usually the worst stuff is when clients want just straight up ugly things and won't budge on making the design better. I have only worked in a print shop as a screen printer for a month now, but I did have a lady walking off the street asking for 10 shirts of a design she made, which was a temple on fire, with a big golden cross on fire. with doves on fire flying out of the temple and a whole paragraph written on the back in flaming Arabic. I didn't know what it meant, but we promptly shut down the possibility of making anything for her. I work in a custom t-shirt shop and I don't even know where to start. I've made a lot of shirts with women getting their nudes put on to give to their boyfriends. A lot of shirts with furries on them that are very graphic. Lots of hentai. Plus sizes if we deem it too gender biased, homophobic, or xenophobic. We can just straight up deny people, which I've done many times. The only time I've had to constantly deny someone and ban them was one guy who was getting graphic crime scene photos on shirts and then started making knockoff Hell's Angels stuff. I wasn't 100% sure what the logos were, so I just put them on. Later the police came to us and told us to stop making the biker shirts for his guy because he was getting in some serious trouble with them. That guy was taking a huge chance. That is up there with getting a gang tattoo for a gang you aren't in. You guys were lucky they weren't traced to you. Not in shirts, but I worked in a bakery and sometimes got to write things on cakes when the baker wasn't around. Was once asked to write "sorry I hit you with my car" on a cookie. Also once had to write "happy birthday, Matthew D's nuts" on a cake. His mom requested it. A friend of mine worked for a local t-shirt printing shop a few years back and a high school needed t-shirts for their homecoming week, which happened to fall on 9/11. Their theme for the week was "a week we'll never forget" and they wanted the Twin Towers on the back of their shirt. Like, what? Worked at a print shop and had a lady come in with a nude picture of herself that she wanted printed on every custom item we could make. A calendar, a mug, a trucker style hat and 5 t-shirts. Her husband worked at a mill, and she wanted him to have a shirt for each day of the work week as well as the hat, and a mug for dinner breaks. Not totally sure what the plan for the calendar was. Never saw her again, so I have no idea how that went over in an Oregon sawmill. When I had my printing business in North Carolina, I had a lot of jobs printing pictures of dead relatives and friends on t-shirts. So many though we joked about putting advertisements for it in funeral homes. So I had a friend that used to work in the mall, back in the late 80s, at a church shop that you could get airbrush paint designs on. She had a guy come in and get airbrush shirts for his baseball team. They were called the Few Come Up Boys. Somewhere today there is a guy in his 50s 60s walking around in a shirt that says he is a frick them up boy. I once got my BF a Shutterfly journal filled with SFW pictures of us and love letters I wrote to him. It turned out very well and he loves it. But I wonder sometimes who read those letters and if they still think about it. Some postman. Printer here. Weirdest print we've printed was a picture of a father and their baby in the shower with the caption "shower time with Papy." The wife was surprising him for his day. Worked at Office Max, and going back to work for them soon, just at a different store, and had a group come in to print stuff off for a baby shower or first birthday. I don't remember which. Pretty sure it was a first birthday for a girl. Anyway, one of the things they had done was pin the tail on the donkey where the tail was an embryo and the donkey was a cartoon uterus cross section. I don't print bizarre tees, and I don't have them printed, but I do collect them at thrift stores and the like. Some of the things I see a lot of: tradesman dong jokes, Big Johnson trucking, Ziz construction, we really know how to use our tools, Nick's door shop, well hung, it's like they can't help themselves. And then there are screaming apes in hard hats holding circular saws, and all that. Biker tees, they like skulls. They do tees for charity rides, which lets them apply for permission to ride in close formation down the highway, because it's a fundraiser. Then you'll get something like a Ride for Life t-shirt showing a chopper made entirely out of bones and skulls. There was one tee done as a funeral shirt for a hex angel who I guess was supposed to be pretty tough. It showed him standing in front of a burning house surrounded by wrecked cars, with dead children at his feet. I didn't buy that one. I didn't want it in the house. And shitloads more. I tell you, there's at least one computer peripherals company that's probably sorry we moved to laser mice so they can't any longer print tees with mouse balls jokes. I don't work in printing, but one of my brother's friends once came over and started handing out jimmies, as he called them. They were business cards that had Jim Carrey's face on both sides. One side was glossy and the other side was matte. It was a weird experience. I work at a company that sells custom beer coolers, not the crappy big ones. We do a lot of pride designs, and some of them are flamboyant. Once we had to trace line art on a photo of a man taking in a giant corn cob. The caption was "God never gives us more than we can handle." It's become sort of an office legend and we still send it to new employees to welcome them to the family. We also get a ton of cam models who want to print photos of themselves to promo their websites. It's funny because we'll receive hundreds of rustic barn wedding design requests and then bam at Biggie Tit 880 wants a full frontal nude. Honestly, I think I've received more nudes from work than from any dating sites at this point. I worked seasonally for one of these companies during the holidays once. Most of them were crappy memes, especially the clean all the things meme. I wish I could remember the really weird ones. There were definitely a few that were really strange. Okay, you need to go rethink this post. When we were in high school, one guy in our group of friends had another friend's picture printed on a t-shirt with his birth year current year printed underneath like a memorial thing. We would go out and wait for people to realize the guy pictured on the shirt was right next to us. I worked at Shutterfly on the upcoating machine and we had some birth announcements for a kid named Aston Martin after the car. Just thinking about how hard it must be to be named Aston growing up. Worked Walmart photo center for a while. Interesting to say the least. Many nudes, lots of copyright, but the one I won't forget is when I was looking on the computer through the photos someone was printing off the 1-hour machine as they were printing. It can be awkward asking for the photos so I can go through them in front of the customer, so I often used the computer so I already knew what I was dealing with when they were ready. The first thing that comes up is a picture of a very young boy's testicles. Like 3-6 months old. I call my manager over, haven't even talked to the customer yet, and essentially bombard her with these pictures like WTF do I do? She calls an assistant manager who finds out, from the customer, that she's printing these pictures, several, around 30 if I recall correctly, for a court case pointing to abuse by the child's father. Mind you, it's 2016. You could have used a flash drive, or likely just brought your phone, but frick. Who goes to a retail establishment to print pictures like that? Even if they needed to be printed, send them to your lawyer. I'm sure they have a way to print them confidentially without you having to be accused of chili pee and me having to see that multiple times. As I was the one who had to sort the pictures and take out all the ones we couldn't sell them, as they had some that were just normal pictures, which may have been the weirdest part. Other than that, we had a lady named Gigi who would come in at least once a month to print out 300 plus photos of herself. 90% mirror selfies of an oriental woman in her late 50s early 60s who wore blue eyeshadow, the most ridiculous makeup, and those flip-flops from the 90s with platforms, and sometimes included photos of her daughter, who was a 20-something lingerie model, who, thank God, looked nothing like her mother. We ended up not being able to sell her most of the photos of her daughter, and I honestly believe Gigi was either an escort or a really old sugar baby. Used to work at a photo printers in the late 90s. Saw everything from classmates using illegal substances and involved in carnal acts. Also saw police photos from the John Bennett Ramsey case. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.